My name is Namsha and welcome to NAM's Aha Moments. If you're joining us for the very first time, welcome to our family, and I'm hoping that you will join us by subscribing below, hitting the bell button so that you do not miss out on any other aha moments that come through. And please join us by commenting on the section below. Just to let us know what it is that God is doing in your life, what aha moments do you have, or what stands out for you, so that we can grow together. But otherwise, if you're a regular, thank you so much for the support. Really appreciate it, and I hope that today's aha moments will resonate with you as well, and will be able to help you in one area or the other. Now, today's aha moment is around something that I've been struggling with, but could never quite find the right verbiage for it, the right language for it, in terms of what exactly is it that I'm struggling with. And then in the last week or so, I realized that what I've been struggling with for the past couple of weeks, months, years is called the trap of perfection. Yep, that's what I called it. I called it a trap. Perfection, the notion of perfection, the desire for perfection, anything associated with wanting perfection in my world, in my light, in my aha moment is a trap. And I realized that it's a trap because I figured out in the last couple of weeks that, this particular week when this aha moment came through, that I felt like after the week that I felt like I'd had like such a really tough week. And I was struggling a lot, like emotionally. I felt stressed out. I felt like under this huge sort of like rock that was on top of me. And after the weekend, when I was like distressing in my quiet time, self-evaluating, I realized that one of the biggest things that I was struggling with that particular week was the fact that I struggled to release my work. I kept on going back and forth with whatever it is that I was working with. I didn't want to release it because I didn't feel it was quite right. In my mind, I thought no, it wasn't quite right. I needed some more people to comment on it. I needed to defer to someone else. I needed to defer to something else. Yes, I felt like God thought it was a good idea. God thought it was good enough, but I still didn't feel within me that I was ready to take it out to the world. Why? I felt like I wasn't ready to take it out to the world because it wasn't quite right. And the more that I sat with God, and I realized that when I sat with it, God was like, release it, let it go, put it out into the world, show it to whomever it is that you needed to show it to. But I kept on saying, yes, God, I will, but like I kept on spending more and more days sitting on it, and then I realized that I didn't release it because I didn't feel like it was quite right. I didn't feel like it was perfect enough. I didn't feel good enough by sending it out there. It felt like it had things that were missing. But God, at that particular moment, reminded me that out of me, He wasn't expecting perfection, because He never created me to be a perfect being. He never created me to create anything of perfection. What He expects of me is excellence. What He expects of me is to be a good and a faithful servant, is to be a good and faithful child, is to be a good steward with whatever it is that God has given me. God has not called me to be perfect in anything that He has given me. He expects me to be consistent in it. He expects me to be disciplined in it. He expects me to give my best of it. He expects me to learn and to grow in it. He expects me to be faithful in it. He expects me to be a good steward with it. But He does not expect perfection out of me. But we live in a society that is consistently requiring of us that we be perfect. Society is consistently coming up with new definitions of what things mean, new definitions of what beauty is, new definitions of what success is, new definition of what perfection is, new definition of what is acceptable. And we find ourselves lost in these ever-evolving definitions of human being, of what excellence is, what success is, what perfection is, and what things are supposed to look like and feel like, right? That we end up putting ourselves in a space where we want to be perfect. Now, there is a significant difference between excellence and perfection. There is a significant difference between greatness and perfection. Now, excellence and greatness are a space that enables good and imperfect to live together. And they're created to live together in such a way that the imperfections, when you learn from them, are supposed to keep on making you better and better and better and better. If you keep your good, right, to the requirements of what God requires of us, which is faithfulness, which is discipline, right, which is excellence, which is giving of ourselves, which is being good steward. Even if something is not good enough according to what the world tells of us, God doesn't have a problem with that. As long as we have a mindset of learning and growing through every single time that we make a mistake, through every single time that we don't get something right, through every single time that something is not the way that we would like it to be. It's okay in God's eyes because He created the two worlds to live together. The good and the bad were created to live together so that the imperfections of it are consistently putting you in a space where you are growing, where you are becoming better, and you're becoming more and more and more like the image of God, like the image of Christ. Right? Now, in the space of endeavoring to get to excellence, in the space of endeavoring to get to greatness, right? It is in that space that we rely in on God. It is the space that we rely in on Christ to mold us and to make us, where we become humble enough that we get molded and changed into the likeness of Christ. And that is how we end up being good steward and end up being excellent in the things that we do. Now, when we come to perfection, the biggest thing around perfection is that in perfection, we want to be right. That's the issue with perfection, is that you're not just aiming to be a good steward. You're not just aiming to be excellent. You're aiming to be right. Now, the moment you are aiming to be right, you're consistently putting yourself into a position where you cannot be wrong. And it is difficult being in any spot and in any place where you have to be right all the time. It's like you're living in a world where you're constantly being tested. And if you're living in a world that you can't be wrong and you have to be right, because that's what perfection requires. Right? You will not be able to live freely because you're always thinking, is this right? Meanwhile, in the land of good stewardness, in the land of good and faithful, you are living in a world where you are okay making mistakes because you are aiming. You know that the mistakes that you make, they will make you into a bigger and a better person. But when you're living in a world of being right, it does not guarantee you that you're becoming a better version of yourself. It does not mean that you're becoming more like Christ because you are living here in fear. That's the other thing that perfection does. Perfection induces fear. If you live in a world that you consistently have to be right, it's like when we were at school and we were writing tests. When you were writing tests and you were in that subject that you know that you're not that good at, you know that the answers that you give have to be right. The pressure that you were under, the amount of stress that you were under, you knew that, you know what, I know I'm not that good at this class, and I know that I have to give these things, right? And so you are under pressure, right? And you used to potentially fear going to that class, because that's what perfection does. It induces fear. Instead of creating a love for what it is that you do, instead of being okay with giving something your best shot, knowing that it may not be, the right in the eyes of other people, but as long as what it is that you're looking for is to give it your best shot, take the feedback that comes through, take it in, learn, and try again. It's like I was saying to this other friend of mine that once I realized this whole, sort of like a difference between excellence and perfection, this whole difference between greatness and perfection, I sat back and I'm like, I will start giving myself permission to step out of the trap of perfection. Because the trap of perfection induces fear, it causes paralysis, it is actually a distraction from us actually living out the fullness of what God has created us to do, because we are consistently desiring to be right rather than consistently desiring to grow. Being right and growing are not synonymous. Right? So instead of living in this world of wanting to grow, we want to live in the world of being right and perfect. And I told my friend that I'm giving myself permission to step out of the trap of perfection. I no longer aim to be right. I now aim to be excellent. I now aim to be good and faithful. I now aim to be an expert in learning and not an expert in being right. That's what I desire for my life, is that I desire to learn and to grow more than I desire to be right. Because when I desire to learn and grow more than I desire to be right, I will grow and eventually get to a place where I'm creating way better things than people that intend on wanting to be right on something. Because when you move within the space of wanting to grow, you start being in a space where you enjoy what you do. You start being in a space where, fear doesn't live there, but love now lives there. You start living in a place where innovation comes through. Because, there cannot be innovation without imperfection. It's not possible, right? So innovation comes through. Creativity flows. Creativity struggles to flow under perfection because you're consistently looking for what is right rather than what it is that is flowing, rather than what it is that is wisdom, rather than what it is that is insightful. You are looking for what is right and not necessarily what is wisdom and insightful. Because what is right may not be wise. What is right may not be insightful. What is right may not be creative. What is right may not be flow. What is right may not be abundance. And I realized that living in a world of perfection actually started causing me to live in a world of scarcity. Of scarcity, because in the world of perfection, the world is the small. Because these are the parameters that you need to work in. But in the other world of good stewardship, of goodness, of excellence, it's abundance, because I can make mistakes and learn more and bigger things. Right? And I felt like God said to me that even in Genesis 1, when God was creating the universe, he in Genesis 1 from verse 1 to 26, every single day that he was done, or every single session that he was done in, he said, it is good. It is good. God did not say that it is perfect. The one God, the only creator, the only person that can create, that has the ability to create perfection, he himself chose goodness. Why? Because goodness and imperfection are created to live together, because the one needs to create an environment for this one to become bigger and better and bigger and better. Because this one needed to, because imperfection is there to help you to get out of your comfort zone, to start learning more, to start growing, to start becoming better, to start flowing, to look into the world of abundance, to start become and expanding. Right? That's why God is okay with the two worlds living together. But why is it that we are consistently putting ourselves under a pressure of the two worlds can't live together, the good and the imperfect can't live together in who we are as human beings? The amount of pressure that we put on ourselves that we have to be right. Today I'm here to tell you that you do not have to be right. Give yourself the permission to step out of the prison. And even when others, because others will put you in that prison. I remember I was having a conversation with someone and they were telling me how, when they started in the industry, people would come to them and ask them to do, a particular task, and they knew nothing about the task, right? But like they told themselves that they were going to learn, and they learned, and now, they're really brilliant at in this particular industry. I was just like, oh wow, that's great. But then when they were asking me about a particular task that they wanted me to do, I didn't have specific experience in that particular task, but I had experience around it. And they were grilling me about that specific task and what experience that I had. But I pushed back and I said, look, I don't have the experience in the particular task, but I'm more than able to learn and grow. I'm more than able to learn it, and I definitely know for sure that I can actually make something out of it, because it'll give me room to be innovative. But afterwards, I stepped out and I realized how he was okay giving himself grace to take on a task that he had never done before and learn and grow and create greatness in it. But with me, he was putting me in a corner of, but you need to have experience in it. But then I stepped back and I was like, no, I am okay not having experience in it, because what I really need more than anything is if I've got understanding of the area, as long as I am an expert in learning, I am perfectly able to do anything that I put my mind to. And I step out of that meeting feeling empowered by the Spirit of God, that I do not, and I am okay stepping out of any prison that any other human being wants to put me in. Right? Because they want to expect perfection out of me. I'm not going to fall into that prison again. Right? I am going to create a space where I create greatness and not perfection. That is what I aim for now. Greatness, not perfection. Because in my eyes, greatness is way better than perfection, because it is in greatness and in the desire for greatness that you come up with innovation, new things, new way of doing things, rather than putting yourself under the prison of trying to be right. And so today's aha moment is, and I hope in everything that I've said that there'll be something that stands out for you, that speaks to you, around being okay with not being perfect. God created perfection. And the only other person that walked this earth that was perfect was Jesus Christ. No one before Jesus and no one after Jesus will ever walk this planet again until Jesus Christ himself comes back. And so to live every single day putting ourselves under that pressure is an act of violence toward ourselves. I realized that it was an act of violence towards myself. Then I needed to give myself room, the grace to be able to be whom God has called me to be. A good and a faithful servant. And that's what I'll aim for. Not perfection. And so, hope this message has blessed you. Leave the comment below. And yeah, otherwise we'll see you at the next aha moment. Cheers. Goodbye.